Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Option Quarantine Concert Series. We are very, very pleased to have live from Berlin, violinist, composer, curator, a true interdisciplinary artist, Biliana Voutchkova.
I,
Hello, Biliana. How are you?
very good. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being a part of this series. It's really nice to have you.
Thank you for the
And
invitation, actually.
yeah,
It's
no
lovely.
problem at all. No problem at all. Before we get started, I just want to remind our audience that you can donate at any time during this program. All the money goes to the artist, so please donate if you can. You can also ask questions in the chat. I can't promise I'll get to all of them, but I'll do my best. Um, so with that out of the way, Biliana, thought I would just open with asking you how you're doing. How's Berlin feeling right now, and what's going on? What's happening?
Well, you're asking me something that will take our whole hour.
Okay,
What?
so maybe an abbreviated version.
Um,
Maybe, yeah.
yeah, I will compress it as much as I can. I maybe start with how I'm feeling. Like
Okay.
right now, I am feeling incredibly happy and grateful to just be able to have a dialogue with somebody relating to topics which are important to me and obviously to you and most likely to the people that are with us. So this is fantastic feeling. Berlin right now is in a very tight situation because of the corona. I don't need to go to the details, but it's tighter than it was a couple of days ago. And it also happens to be Easter, so it's kind of a strange combination of adjusting to a holiday mood with very strict regulations which are new, and at the same time like a lot of other strange things. For example, today was snowing and then 2 hours later it was completely sunny, and then it snowed for 5 minutes again, and then it became again sunny, and it just there is this kind of a strange mixture of things coming together. That's just these couple days.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we are.
Have you been able to perform live concerts? Maybe not recently, but let's say when the restrictions were eased earlier, months ago. Did you have opportunities to perform live in front of audiences? Was that happening in the past year, like indoor concerts? Was that even a thing?
Yeah, they were a few months in the summer,
Uh-huh.
starting in July, I think, until October, when concerts were allowed.
Ah,
Mostly outdoors, but also indoors with restricted seatings. And I did manage to play a lot during these couple months. What happened is that a lot of things kept being postponed. At the beginning of the corona, we didn't really quite know how this is going to go. So a lot of things, instead of being immediately canceled, kept being postponed. And they actually managed to take place during these months when it was possible,
uh-huh.
including my own festival, which I was in heaven to have. This
Oh
was
my God.
this was such an incredible moment of wow, we are actually going to do it. And I had international guests, and it all happened.
Oh, fantastic. Congratulations. I mean, organizing a festival is a lot of work even in normal times. I can't imagine the obstacles and the things you'd have to deal with during a pandemic.
Yeah,
So congrats on that.
it
That's
was
really wonderful.
something.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. Wow.
yes.
Wow. Well, if it's all right with you, I wouldn't mind. We have so much we can get to today, and I'm really looking forward to the entire interview. But maybe we can start with one of the videos you sent.
Sure.
This one's called Unstable. Is there anything you want to talk about this particular piece before we show it?
Well, I first just want to say that these are all working titles. Like, they're
Okay.
not names that I've thought of as that is the name of this video. They were more something that I can relate to when I go and look back into it. Um, and like the way that I see these videos, probably I'll talk more while we progress with them, because they have some kind of a order for me. For
Yeah.
example, they start like they're all within this last year, and they start with this particular one, which is an audio recording which I did shortly before Corona. So this is still the time when the change has not happened. It was about to happen. It was already in the air and it was already in other countries, but it wasn't here yet.
Right.
And the image that I chose for this is really a little film for me. The images that I chose are the images that came with this change, where I was mostly in nature, because it was a beautiful spring and we were very lucky to have this possibility to be outdoors. And there was absolutely no music happening. It was complete silence for me. I lost the wish to do anything. There was no live concerts, no live streams, no recordings, no nothing. And so I kind of put this together as a first imagery of how it felt at the beginning of this whole period.
Got it. Understood. Okay, well, why don't we go to this first video? This is Unstable by Biliana Voutchkova, and we'll see you guys after the piece. Hey everybody, welcome back. That was Unstable by our guest Biliana Voutchkova, live from Berlin. That was really fantastic. The imagery, the sounds, all of it. If it's all right with you, Biliana, could we talk a little bit about your connection with visuals in general, visual art and sound, and just kind of maybe describe how those two elements go together for you in your work?
Yep. The first thing that I should say is that this is very new for me. And it has not happened because of Corona, which probably people would assume. It is not the case. I've always liked visual art, and I've always been going to galleries and following certain visual artists and visual art places. And Berlin is, of course, a fantastic place to be in that sense. And what happened is that after an initial interest in movement and dance, which is also in a way visual art form, I've been a lot involved with this kind of work until a couple years ago. It's not that I'm not anymore, but it was really a very, very strong focus on this kind of work related to movement. And then it somehow naturally shifted into video and into really visual art for the past maybe 2 years or so, 3 years. And I really became very sensitive about relating to visual art phenomena, even if it's like a painting or a sculpture or a video or anything visual. And I had a very strong will already back then, like 2-3 years ago, to start working more with visual arts where I translate the image into a soundscape in some way. And it makes completely sense to me. It's maybe super abstract for other people, but for me it makes really sense, and it's really clear, okay, this has to translate into this. This was also the time when I started being very much interested in presenting long formats. Like in a gallery space for 7 or 8 hours is beautiful. I love it. And really taking the time to just be there and dive into something for a longer period of time, which brings you, I think, much deeper than if you are in it for 1 hour.
Yeah, for sure.
And it also leaves this different kind of perceiving, because you are just observing and letting things happen with time. You have the luxury of time. And this, of course, became very appropriate with the time of Corona coming. So I had the possibility to actually start learning about the technical aspects of working with visuals, because I did not have that time before. So just to use my own visuals and to actually technically work with them in a way that I would be happy to show, that took time. And that's a new skill for me. And that is a direction that I'm still, as I said, at the beginning of, and very much looking forward to develop it further. So
that's fantastic. There have been a couple other musicians on our series who have talked about how they took this quote unquote free time we have during the pandemic to figure out a new way to work, or to figure out a new instrument. Or, for example, we had a great drummer who named Gerald Cleaver, amazing New York drummer, and got into electronics. It is something he didn't really do in the past, but now that we have this time, he's exploring electronic music, and it's wonderful. So I think maybe that's one of the list of positive things that are coming out of this pandemic is small, but there are some positive things coming out of the pandemic, and that might be one of them, right? A new perspective on work.
And I think we're just a fantastic community that will take anything as a creative input.
Exactly.
And then we will learn something new, and we will use it for something that we would not have had time to do before.
Yeah,
that's
very true. It might be a nice segue, the next, if you're okay with it, since we're on this topic of visual art, to talk about your recent exhibition in Sofia. It's Under the Veil of Consciousness, and this is a interdisciplinary visual sound long format exhibition. Could you talk a little bit about that work?
I will say a few things. I mean, the last 2 videos that we're going to show, they're all using material from this exhibition, actually. So kind of linking into, but we can also talk about it now. I mean, as I said, this interest was already present with me before Corona. And when I had this sudden months of cancellations. The first month I lost completely interest to work and I stopped. I wasn't practicing and I wasn't producing anything, and I was just taking the time to enjoy my free time, because actually I have been madly busy for years with hardly any days off and children on my own, and so just few months of completely no work was not a problem actually. and I think I also gave myself time to just observe myself without demanding. So for months I've just been observing myself and my needs, and about half a year, maybe 7-8 months later, after we have already had a partial return and live concerts happening, when the second big lockdown came with us, that was in November, I suddenly found this nice possibility to apply for a scholarship to do this kind of work, to do an exhibition. And it was really from the beginning, I thought, okay, I would like to use this time to prepare a whole exhibition on my own, to do installations, to do video work, to do audio installations, everything. And to perform in the space, which I did for 5 consecutive days.
Fantastic.
So two long days were 7 hours, and the other 3 days were 4 hours. So I was 5 days non-stop performing long hours. It was a complete blessing in the midst of this pandemic. The gallery is in Bulgaria, and it was a possibility to perform live there, while here was impossible. So I took this possibility and I used it, and I'm incredibly happy and grateful for this little island of hours and hours of live performance after months of none. It's really like such a also something I noticed with Corona is that the ups and downs are humongous.
Yeah, it's extreme.
Like it really, like the downs are really downs and the ups are wow.
Yeah, yeah. Were they allowing a live audience at the gallery? Okay, like a limited live audience.
It was limited, but because it was long hours, I had a lot of people coming. I mean, for the opening of the exhibition, there were probably 200 people that came through. It was incredible, and I was playing really non-stop for a few people, which were totally with me, totally happy. It was an incredible exchange. Yeah.
Fantastic. If someone wanted to check this out, is there a website they can look at and see maybe some excerpts from your maybe we'll put it up in the chat after the program. But okay, great.
I mean, there will be an official trailer coming in some, because the exhibition was just last month. The last day was on the 21st of March, so it's very, very recent. But I will put a film version of one of my installations, and things will be also coming out.
Fantastic. And how often before the pandemic, how often were you traveling back and forth from Bulgaria to Berlin, and how often are you doing it now during the pandemic? Has it changed quite a lot, the frequency that you were going over to Bulgaria?
I wouldn't say it changed so much, because before the pandemic, I was busy working, so I still wasn't going much to Bulgaria.
Okay.
Like, I go there, and I have never cut my relationship with the country and with my friends there, and of course my family is there. Left, which was in 1991. But I have never really cut it. I've been always going there at least once a year, and I do have a summer residency there, which again I've never missed a year to be there, and often for extended amount of time. But what changed now is that the possibility to go there is not the one that I choose. It's just the one that it's possible. Right? When it's possible, I go, and it's often not possible. And it's also often not feeling right to go, even if it's possible. For example, over the Christmas and New Year holidays, I really didn't feel this is the right time to travel.
Yeah.
I mean, the numbers were growing and the people were just going all over the place. And I felt so out of motivation to move away from here right at this time. I just didn't do it. And it was possible. I actually had to cancel tickets. We had tickets to do it. And it didn't feel right. So.
I think that was a correct move. I think, Not the time to be in a crowded airport.
Last month, and it was for a really good cause. And also I have parents which are not so young anymore, and I'm an only child, and so it was the right moment to combine seeing them and presenting this exhibition, and I just did.
Well, why don't we move on to our second film? This is the short film, and this one doesn't include visuals. This is a film of you. Is this an improvisation, or is this yeah?
Everything, all the films that you will see are improvised.
Mm-hmm.
The material that I play is all improvised. The visual parts are improvised. The documented parts and the installation parts are not improvised, obviously, but they come later. For this particular video that I call short film, this came a little bit later in the corona progression. It came shortly before the second lockdown.
Okay.
And it was a video that I did for an exchange with a dancer from Bogota, Colombia.
Oh.
We were initiating a project together, and we were exchanging videos. We wanted to show each other something, our world. And I really, really like it. It's the first time that I'm going to show it now, as it is for all the videos, actually.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes, they have never been shown, so I'm happy to do it for the first time here.
Well, we're honored to have
it was a certain mood that I was in, and it was one of these so-called downs, corona downs. Not so bad probably, but just a quiet time and very eventless moment when not much was happening. Shortly before the lockdown, but I had nothing anymore anyways, and I knew we were going into months of not having anything live. And I just took this moment and had a quiet, slow, improvised part, which is also maybe a little bit eventless, but for me it's representing the right moment and the right mood of that day.
Fantastic. Okay, well, why don't we check this out? This is a short film with our guest Biliana Voutchkova, and we'll be back more with her after this video. Take it away, Ralph. That was solo improvisation by our guest, Biliana Voutchkova, live from Berlin. We had a question come in. Maybe we'd start with that from the chat. Ken wanted to know how you use preparations on the violin. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, as it was visible also in this last video, I didn't hide it. I showed one of my little clip preparations, wooden clip preparations. How do I use them? I use them as every experimental or improvising musician uses them. You try different sounds, you try different things, and then you like something, and then you continue using it, and by ways of doing, it develops into some direction which you cannot foresee at the beginning. So my preparations are very tiny, mostly. And so they're in a little box.
That's good for traveling, though, right?
Very and also it maybe informs what I would do a little bit, because they're very fragile. Like, for example, these little clips that were shown on the clip, if I plug too strong or if I play too hard, they just fall out. And so it gives something to the way you play, as because it's physical material and it makes you play in a certain way. And the sound that comes, of course, is also related to the essence of the preparation. So I seem to use preparations not too often, and when they usually give some kind of a detailed, gentle direction of the music.
Okay, maybe connected to that, you're obviously classically trained. Did you have a moment or sets of moments in your life where you got more interested in experimenting and maybe moving into this kind of world of experimental music and experimenting with preparations, or without? How did you get more involved in this side of the music?
Yeah, this question has been coming at it often. So I have a very particular answer. No, because it's also a very particular moment and a very clear one. So I can answer this very clearly because I remember this moment. And this moment was at the time when I was about to graduate from the high school where I was going, which is a specialized music high school in Bulgaria. And they're very, very strongly professionally oriented schools. So by the time you graduate 12th grade, you are really at a very high standard. I mean, I was already playing concerts with orchestras and touring and doing all kinds of things. And because of that, I have kind of reached the most that I could have possibly done in Bulgaria. There was not much more that I could have done. Yeah. And that was frightening for me. I was like, okay, I'm 18, and is this going to be my life for the next 50 years? Like, there must be something more. Like, I was longing and searching for something more than that. And that was the time when Bulgaria was still a communist country, pre-internet. There was no information and no possibility to learn. I didn't know anything about contemporary music. Nothing. I didn't know who is John Cage or like Mavericks like that. Never heard of them.
Wow.
So this longing and this search and a very lucky chain of circumstances brought me to the US, where I studied and did my master's and my bachelor's and everything. And that is where the discovery started. The discovery of this other music or other possibility that must exist somewhere. I found it there. And I found, of course, when I moved to New York in the late 90s, I found a lot of new, for me, music, which was corresponding to my needs. So I was like, okay, so this is what I've been looking forward to. This is what I've been looking into. This is what I was craving. And so it was very natural to go into that direction, and a couple of years later to make a very conscious choice to go into that direction.
Yeah. I think New York, there's always a lot of great stuff going on in New York. In the late 90s, when you got there was an incredible amount of stuff happening. You were at the new school, is that correct?
I was at the new school. I was at Mannes College then. Yeah, I did my master there, and I still did. I still wasn't. I was too shy to be improvising openly. I was still learning and being a student, even if I was doing my master's. But I was going to places all the time, and I don't know, like the Knitting Factory was active a lot more than anything else at that time. And whatever, it was just the beginning of this necessity of growing. I had a necessity to grow into some direction, and I've reached my limit with classical music. That's how I felt.
And because New York is way too cheap to live in, is that the reason why you left? You wanted to find a city that was way more expensive than New York? Is that what brought you to? Actually, that would segue into the next question that we got from James Montes, which is how long have you been in Berlin and how did you end up there?
Yeah. I will just quickly say that leaving the US was with a decision that had multiple reasons. And it wasn't only the expensiveness of the city of New York.
Yeah.
It was political, it was social, it was disagreement with certain things which started happening, which I did not want to be part of. Yes. And it was also the time when I had small children, which I very carefully thought of as, okay, are they going to grow in here or shall I bring them to grow somewhere else? And I chose somewhere else. So that's very quickly. And how I ended up in Berlin was, it was connected somehow to the US in some strange way, because I had a very dear colleague, cello player, which I worked a lot with when we were still in the US. I was in Boston for 8 years.
Okay.
And the time when I was working intensively with her, her name was Agnieszka Dziubak. She's not alive anymore, unfortunately. But she was the one that moved to Berlin, and she was the one that brought me here for first time on a project. That was back in 2006, I think, or 2007, something like that. And that first project I did in Berlin came at a time when I was completely insecure of where to live. I lived in a paradise island in the Caribbean for a few years, where no work was possible, but it was one of the best times of my life.
Nice.
And that saved my work, and I realized why I'm not able to live there anymore, because I need my work, and my work is more than work, it's my life.
Yes.
And then I was in Bulgaria shortly and traveling, and so I wasn't really sure where I would end up. And that's the moment when this project in Berlin came. And the project was for a few weeks, so I actually got to see the city and to experience what's happening in here. And it felt like this is the place that I've been looking for. This is where I can do what I want to be doing. And so shortly afterwards, again, through certain circumstances which were related to my private life, I ended up very abruptly deciding to move here. And that was 2008. And so I ended up here, and I'm still here.
It is a remarkable place. People ask me, what's the scene in Berlin like? And I mean, there's a lot of scenes in Berlin. But what I end up telling people is, well, I showed up there once, and I had one jam session planned with a friend of mine. And I was there for 3 days. And instead of having one session, it blossomed into, I think I had something like 7 or 8 sessions. And like 2 gigs. It was just like, it's like this river of improvising that just, you jump in it and it's like, it's amazing. And, you know, Ausland and all these amazing places. It's a real center for this music. And it's really inspiring to be there. Why don't we go to another video? It's a lot we can keep talking about, and I want to keep talking, but I want to also hear some of more of this great music. This is exhibition film. Can you talk a little bit about this? This is part of the Under the Veil of Consciousness, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so maybe you want to just give a brief description about what we're about to watch?
Yeah. These last 2 videos are from last month's exhibition, actually. It's all material that was recorded during the exhibition and filmed by a dear friend and colleague of mine. And I took the material and I decided that it's also the right time to show it now, because it's so fresh and I'm so connected to it that I actually did all the editing and I chose all the parts by myself. And it is going both films that we will see, the next two, are going between parts of the live playing, which was happening during these long hours in the gallery, and details from some of the installations. So the one that we are about to see now is showing that there was a sound installation with 6 small loudspeakers and small stones that I have collected at this beautiful summer residency that I keep talking about, where I've been going for 35 years.
It's on the Black Sea, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I'll see you there.
You're welcome. I bet you. Now that you know about it. And
Yes.
so this collection of stones inspired this installation in a way that like, okay, it's very long to explain everything, but the exhibition has a main topic, which is the hands. So the hands was a topic that connects all the works that were exhibited, and it also connects me as a live player there, because this is what is producing the sound. And so these hands have been collecting these stones for this many years, and I used them as sound material for building this installation. And this sound material and these little speakers were in the gallery running nonstop through the duration of the exhibition. They were in a little bit remote place, so I could choose how far to stay while I play my improvisations so that people can hear them or not. And so the video that you're about to see is kind of linking into this ongoing stone installation and finishing with just that part. That's briefly what you will see.
Fantastic. Well, why don't we watch this exhibition film with our guest, Biliana Voutchkova, here on the Quarantine Concert Series at Experimental Sound Studio. We'll be back after the video. Please enjoy. That was exhibition film by our guest Biliana Voutchkova, live from Berlin. That was fantastic. Thank you very much for that. Part of your Wheel of Consciousness, Under the Wheel of Consciousness exhibit in Sofia, Bulgaria. I wanted to ask you about a new upcoming solo release, you have on Takaroku, which is a digital-only series that Café Oto in London is producing. Am I right?
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome. Could you talk a little bit about that release?
Yes. So Café Oto started this back in March last year when the first lockdowns in Europe were. And they have been putting out records of artists which are related to the Corona time in some way. I have been in touch with them already last summer. But as I said, I have lost motivation to work for months. And I was not, I was okay with giving myself time. So I waited months and months, having this in mind that I could put something out if I want to. And then I did some, it was a lot of thoughts going on in my mind without actually doing anything. So no recording, just thinking about it. And just thinking about it and just thinking about it. And suddenly by the fall, after the months where we could play live, I had some wish to record. So I recorded some material. And I didn't even listen and started editing it until January. So that was like more than half a year after the initial discussion with Otto. And then it took another couple months to actually come up with what I want to be doing. So I finished it last month. And it's the first recording where I am not just playing naturally and organically as I would and choosing the parts that I like and putting them out. It's a mix and an edit of many different recordings, all from this time, some field recordings, some sounds that have been with me in my room, in my apartment throughout the whole time of Corona, which are very familiar and very often heard. Some other sounds which happened only once, but there were strong moments and I just captured them somehow, and I've had them somehow recorded with my phone. Some was me playing, and a lot of them are actually voice sounds. I've used a lot more the voice in a way that is song-like almost, which, like, I call the album Seeds of Songs, because I feel like these are just like little seeds of something which never developed. And basically it's a 1/2 an hour or 30-some minutes piece, which is a condensed version of my sound days of these many months.
Okay. And they're all contained pieces. Did you do any collaging of the separate pieces into a new work, or is it just?
No, it's all one piece, but it melts into one another, and then a lot of times there are multiple records going on, or they're like mixes of chopped things that I put together. And it's a fantasy world, but it's a fantasy world that is composed from what I've been listening to.
Great. And that is easily found at the Café Oto website. I think there's a link to.
And it's not out yet, but it will come out apparently on the 19th of this month. But I would say it will come out either this month or latest next month. So
okay, fantastic.
It's about to come.
Got it. Selfishly, I would love to ask you about another musician that you work with a lot, and I'm saying selfishly because
he's
I've been lucky enough to work with him as well, and that's Mikel TK, and you have been working with him for at least a decade with blurred music, and I'm sure many other contexts as well. Do you want to talk a little bit about the blurred music concept and about working with Mikel, and anything that you guys might have coming up in the future, or things you've done recently?
Yeah, it's actually also Michael, as we spoke before, is the connection between us, because we presented the first blurred music concert at your, like the first time that we presented blurred music on a tour was in the US. Yes. And this was my first concert at Option, when actually we played at Ken's at Ken's place because there was something with the venue. It was being renovated or something.
Yeah, totally.
And
I can't
that's
remember.
also the connection between us, and this whole thing started somehow back then.
Yeah.
And now we are actually celebrating our 10th anniversary this year.
Wow.
So we do have projects in mind and ideas and developments, and they're not all connected to blurred music, of course. Blurred music became very rich for us because we've developed it into an installation, we've developed it into a quartet version. We've decided to do residencies with the quartet version where we invite 2 local musicians in the different countries. We present the project and work with them with a similar way of working as we would work on the duo. So we pre-record certain material, we develop it together, we listen to it, we build a library of sounds, and then we extract from it and build structures for compositions for our concerts. And we decided to do that with local people in different countries. So a few of these quartet versions are coming in the different countries. And we also have another project in the fall, which relates somehow to my interest in this visual world. It's going to be with a furniture designer that is a close friend of ours.
Cool.
And in his atelier, which is a fantastic space with beautiful models and beautiful pieces of wood everywhere and real cool design that he has. And we're going to work with the sounds from his machines and with the sounds from the atelier, actually, and build a whole new soundscape, including these sounds, and eventually produce an object with the recordings, which he will design. So it will be a release of some kind.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Please give Mikkel my best next time.
Maybe watching, actually. So
I hope so. Hi, Mikkel, if you're watching. Maybe we're unfortunately starting to run out of time, but there's one more question from the audience, from the virtual audience, that I would like to ask. And Jeff Guy is asking, who is Biliana most influenced by? Is there a most influence? I'm sure you have multiple influences, but maybe who are some of the most or the most profound influence on your work?
Well, I have to say that I'm a very secretive person, so I will probably not say any names. And also, it will not do justice to some other names. And what I would say is that there is somebody that has been very important to me for the past couple of years. He's watching this. I will, again, not say his name, but he's been important personally and musically to me. And actually, my exhibition, The View of Consciousness, relates somehow to this. One of the installations is based on material, visual material, videos, and certain objects that are connected to him. I am very much influenced by nature, by the sound of nature, and by the sense that nature gives me, by the sense of freedom and the sense of just being without expectations and without pressure when I'm in these environments. That is a huge inspiration, and it's also a huge help to go into the self and into the trust and intuition that is needed. And that is also a huge inspiration. This intuition and the inner world and the way to find it and to let it appear and to be patient, to hear it and to understand it and to use it.
Beautiful. It's hard to believe it's almost been an hour, but it has. We still have one more video to get to before we finish. But I just want to, first of all, before we take it out with this last video, I want to say thank you for doing this and for sharing ideas with us and your wonderful music and visuals. And I cannot wait till we're sitting at a long table in a festival somewhere in Europe having a glass of wine going, remember that pandemic and how crazy that was? And now everything's back to normal where we're playing these festivals and drinking wine and going on hikes and everything's good again. Let's hope that happens soon.
I would.
But for this final film, dress film, this is also part of the under the View of Consciousness exhibit, correct? Is there anything maybe you want to talk about dress film before we roll the final film?
Yeah, this is like, it's called dress film because obviously there is a dress installation that is going to be used in it, and the dress came from another project which I did with a photographer and visual artist from Bulgaria who is one of my dearest friends. Her name is Biliana Voutchkova. She did also all the footage that you see in these films and gave it to me to edit. But it was her idea related to an image that we did many, many years ago with this same cellist that was the link to Berlin at first, Agnieszka Dziubak. We did, she's a fantastic photographer and she has always these incredible ideas. So she had an idea to put me and Agnieszka on the rooftops of Sofia in Bulgaria with these huge dresses. We are climbing up on a ladder and we are wearing these huge dresses. And we are like this small and the dresses are this big. And then you see all the rooftops and it's a fantastic shot. And as a continuation of this, she's always wanted me to do one alone where I'm in nature somewhere. So at one of my returns when I came to Bulgaria, she had it all set to go and make this photo on location. So she picked me up from the airport with the dress and the ladder and brought me to a location where there is a small pond where I'm supposed to be in. So we had to go inside the pond. Her and her assistant had these like fisherman boots and a long suit to wear to go inside the pond and settle the whole installation. And it was an incredible, fascinating moment for me to be coming up on this ladder and, you know, the dress and how to put it and how to take the violin and how, I mean, it was fantastic. Beautiful. And so we did this shot, and this shot is the cover shot of the exhibition, actually. And so when I was preparing everything, I thought, but you know what, it would be very silly if we just show the image and we don't show the dress. So maybe the dress should be part of it. And we made it happen. So the dress was part of the installations in the room, and I was playing part of the time up there on that. Fantastic. Big. So you will see that linking into one of the silent installations, which is all about the hands, and it's a collage. There is also kind of a sense of collage in this exhibition that is linking all the installations and the sound also, of course. Right. So it's one of the images of this collage that shows my hands in certain choreographical ways, like they're just little hand choreographies. I call it the hands confessions. And they also have this sensitivity because of the playing. So it's somehow also linking to listening, but there is no sound, and it just choreographies of this sense that these hands have had because of playing.
Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you, Biliana.
Thank you.
Really, I look forward to being in the same room with all musicians, including you, very soon. Thanks again for being here. Before we roll this final film, I also just want to say thank you to the Experimental Sound Studio here in Chicago for presenting the Quarantine series. Thanks for Ralph Loza for engineering. Big thank you to my fellow option curators, Ken Vannemark and Andrew Klinkman. And next week, please come back also at 1 o'clock Chicago time with Jasper Stadhouders, the great guitarist and bass player, who was based in Amsterdam, but I think moved to Berlin. So live from Berlin. One more time, he'll be back. So thanks, everybody, and please donate if you can. And this final film is Dress Film by our guest, Biliana Voutchkova. And thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you next week. Take it away, Ralph.